All right, continuing with today's show, segment 2. This is, of course, 11/4/16. You know what 11/4/16 is, November the 4th, 2016, like 21st century. So, at the end of your debate, continuing along, you've got all your arguments put on the table, and you pick, and you use, let's say, critical and analytic observations or observational power, and then you use calculated logical conclusions. Well, you come to those, calculated logic. You work the formula of logic. You use correct, valid logic, real logic. You don't use some sort of faux pas logic. You don't use false logic. You don't use defective logic. You use real logic. And there's one of those. One. Not my logic. It's the logic. Like the counting to 10 system. There's only one system in counting. Basically, we got a system. It's called counting to 10 by counting the numbers properly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's the way it's done. You don't count like, I'm going to count to 10 by counting A, B, C, D, E. No. That wouldn't be counting numbers, would it? Because those are letters. Let's be logical here. I know it's elementary, and I'm like talking to you like you're like a bunch of idiots, but sorry, don't mean to insult you, but if you count to 10 by using letters, then you're not on the same track of reality that the rest of us are. And I say the rest of us that are on the right track, not those people that aren't, because there's a lot of them that aren't on the right. They don't even. It boggles the mind. Anyway, you make the conclusion about this. You decide, okay, here's the side that says I'm for this thing, and the other side says I'm against this thing, and then they present their arguments why they are for and why they're against. And then at the end of that debate, you decide amongst both teams. You decide, well, our argument is like shit, and it's totally bogus, and so we can't believe that anymore because your arguments prove that our arguments are like not true and stupid. So both sides of the two teams say the facts tell us that this is true and this is not true, and so we're going to believe that. Everybody on the freaking teams, both sides say they agree. Well, the evidence says that Team A is right, whereas Team B is wrong. So Team A and Team B agree that they're all going to agree with the facts that Team A presented. I think I said that right. So anyway, and you agree because it's the right thing to do. You say, yeah, the sky is up, and everybody on the team, both sides of the teams, agree. Every one of them agree that in fact the side of Team A is correct, that the sky is in fact up. And that's it. I mean, that's it. The debate's over. We've concluded. And both teams come to the point of understanding and reality and logic and intelligence and say, I guess the sky is up because that team proved that the sky is up. And the other team, our team, the team I was on, didn't prove shit. So I'm going to have to agree with Team A. So everybody becomes team number one and agrees on that fact, which was proven during the debate. Let's suppose the debate was, one Team A says, we're going to take the position that the world is round. And Team B is going to take the position that the world is flat. And so they're going to debate this. And then, the Team A comes out with some statements of fact, like it is round, and here we got photographs taken from outer space that shows that it's round. And there are other facts and evidence that you can present in your arguments that proves that the world is round and not flat. And then the team B says, but if you go out far enough on the ocean, you'll fall off the edge and poof, be drifting in space somewhere. And if the debate team actually says that out loud, like, oh yeah, that's our position. And then when people stop laughing at these idiots, then they move on. But in the end, everybody agrees that, yeah, the world's round because it is. And because all the facts prove it. And there are no facts to prove that it's flat and sitting on the back of a tortoise. No facts to support that. Lie or untruth or falsehood or totally illogical bit of nonsense, because why would you think that? But anyway. So in the end, Team A and Team B agree that the world is round and not flat. Now you've done a debate and you've done it completely and you're good, because now you've come to a point where everybody agrees with the facts and puts the stupid shit, the nonsensical blabbling bullshit, in the trash can and walks away and agrees. Everybody agrees. The sky is up. The world is round. And talking to people is not a fucking crime. There might be a law, but it's still not a crime. I'm talking about a real crime as opposed to a faux crime. So the point I'm trying to make is what I just said. You get the point, right? So if I say to you, Donald Trump is a lunatic, that's kind of like my opinion, because it's just kind of it's just kind of an opinion statement. If I say that Hillary Clinton is a criminal, I'm guessing that's true, because evidence, which we have seen and heard over and over again, I have no doubt whatsoever. Okay? If I see some evidence that tells me that she's not a criminal, I'll think about it. I'll consider it. But, I haven't seen any. So that debate is pretty much one-sided. You're guilty, lady. Cunt. Piece of shit, traitor, murder, and bastard, mass murder, and crimes against humanity, bitch. And the emails. So, and there's Donald Trump, who's a freaking lunatic. I mean, he talks about him, he's just, I don't think he's really that autistic. Yeah, I think he might be autistic. I don't think he's that, shall we say, correctly using English in his speeches kind of guy. I mean, at this point, he's saying, yeah, I'm pro-life, meaning he's anti-life and anti-freedom because, he's a freaking idiot. And don't tell me Donald Trump has a high IQ because, I'm guessing it's somewhere around average, really. And how could you not think that, I wonder? So, the point is, debate, you put the evidence on the table, pro, con, negative, plus, whatever, truth, not truth, and then you sort that out and you come to a conclusion, and everybody walks away saying, that was a good debate. I feel foolish for taking the wrong side, but, that's the way it works. At least I can see now that the truth is true, and the logic is logical, and the thinking is sound. And so now I'm going to think the other way, because the way I was thinking before was just fucking stupid. Oddly enough, in America, at least on the internet, I think probably in real life too, but at least on the internet, people like to argue, and and they keep arguing, and they never stop the debate. They just keep arguing forever and ever and ever and ever until one person says, "I'm tired of this shit. fuck you, and just hangs up. Which is me, usually, because some people are just stubborn. No, I'm stubborn too, actually. Got that from my mother. Because when somebody says, hey, it's a crime to talk to people, and I say, no, it's not. So it just reversed. You know, me and my mother and me and you people, some of you people, out there like, oh, talking to people. Well, let's put the cards on the table. Let's put the facts and the evidence on consideration and on the board here so you can think about it and see. Well, here's the fact. The Constitution of the United States states that the government can't make a crime out of talking to people. It can't be. And, you know, some wise ass out there is going to say, but what about inciting a riot? What about stirring up the mob to lynch some innocent person? And, you know, I wasn't just thinking about the blacks back in the 40s or 50s or whenever when they actually lynched human beings that were black. Hung them from a tree for what? For some reason? Like, for what? For being uppity? For, like, looking at a white girl or some shit? I mean, God, this is like less than 100 years ago. Have we progressed past that yet? Not really. What part of it's the 21st century do you not understand? Butthead. Sorry. So, I told you the debate thing. That's the way it is. It's not debatable, so to speak. I mean, you can debate it all you want, but the fact is, that's how you debate. That's the frickin' way it's done. It's sort of like the rule. And people don't do that anymore. Today's world is we'll just keep debating forever until one of us drops dead. Or, you know, dies of a freaking stroke from being frustrated by the other person being damn stupid and stubborn. Like my mother. And I'm sorry, Mom, you're not listening, but someone might tell you. Yeah, Mom, there's no debate here. I said it's not a crime. I have evidence, proof, facts, logic to back that up, Mom, and you don't. I'm not going to debate my mother. It'd be pointless. She's not going to change her mind, and she won't understand what I'm saying because she's... I don't want to say my mother's not smart, but my mother is just not aware of what I am aware of. She doesn't know what I know. And pretty likely, she wouldn't listen to me tell her what I know in order for her to think, let me think about that, son. As your mother, I'm going to have to say I'm wrong about that, and I'm going to change my mind now because you showed me the error of my ways. And I'm your mother, so be nice. So, you understand? Are you following me so far? She's my mother. I'm not going to tell her there's no God. Okay? I was there last night. I was visiting. I was doing some work on our house that needed to be done. And she had on Fox News. And then for a brief time, she had on some zealot cult Christian crap with some guy that was like, I don't know, I think he was, Asian, Oriental, you know, another guy over in that area of the world. And he was preaching. You know, I didn't want to listen to him because I knew if I did, I'd just get frustrated and angry or whatever. But I did hear him say a few things, and I said, what a fucking idiot. I mean, you know, shouldn't you be like a Buddhist or something? And people were like listening to him and then, yeah, amen. You know, I'm like, you bunch of idiots. The man's talking gibberish. It's bullshit. Mythological nonsense. It just ain't no way that's gonna fly. Alright, so it doesn't matter what he's talking about. You can imagine. I'm sure you can. I'm sure you've seen TV evangelists, con men like Billy Graham and so forth. Oops. What did I say? Con man. I said con man. Anyway, this guy on the television was preaching. You know, that's what they call it. And I'm like saying, that's not true. And I got evidence to prove it. And the guy just doesn't hear me because he's on television. Just like you and I, you know, I'm on a radio and you're not. So here's the thing. We talked about debate and the problems with that. And the endless debate that's going on in America, which never seems to stop. And nobody ever seems to come to a logical conclusion, except me, of course, and a few other people. Because I'm not the only person in the world with a brain that functions the way brains are supposed to work. Thank goodness. You thought I was going to say thank God? Did you? No. Like the oath of, I took an oath the other day for court, for jury duty, and you know you have to take some sort of oath. And at the end of it, it's like, "So help me God," and I'm not saying that. And why would a court of law, which is supposed to be secular and not be biased by superstitious nonsense and malarkey and mythological bull, when they're still saying that in a court? Are you serious that I'm going to say? No, I'm not going to say that. So help me. And now you're thinking, you're equating yourself to God. Huh? No, I'm being rational, logical, and freaking sane. That's what I'm going to be. I'm being a sane, rational person. God has nothing to do with it. You know, if I commit perjury, if I lie on the stand as a witness, or in this case it was for jury duty, I wouldn't be a witness. But if I was a witness and I said, so help me God, and then I lie, then God's not going to punish me. The judge is going to put me in jail for perjury. But of course, he kind of has to prove that it's perjury first. You know, you can't just say, I don't like what you said, so you're going to jail. That wouldn't be a free country, and that wouldn't be the way courts are supposed to be run in America, I'm pretty sure. They're not, because the judge and the jury and the prosecutors are all a bunch of freaking, sorry jury people, but I'm going to be on the jury, and if I'm on a jury and there's a crime come up, you know, and somebody's charged with, like, hey, he had a bag of pot in his pocket, you know, guess what? Not guilty. Okay? Not fucking guilty. Jury nullification is what that's called, and we have the right to do so. A lot of jurors are not told this, and a lot of jurors are not aware of it, but if the law's wrong, then you can't charge someone with a crime if they break this fake, made-up, fabricated bullshit law. I've heard the candidates talk about this. Law and order, law and order. No. I've watched Law and Order on television. It's a bunch of shit propaganda for the Nazi bastard police state motherfuckers. They're trying to condition the people watching the show to the point that they actually believe the nonsense that they're watching. Like entrapment. You know, police shows on TV are always doing this. They're entrapping people, and then, oh yeah, we got that one off the street, and yeah, but you did it illegally because entrapment is a crime. I remember when the Supreme Court said so. You know, I think it has something to do with back in the days when people were like, cops were like beating people with rubber hoses in the back room of the jail. You know, going to beat a confession out of you, whack, 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 whack. Or, you know, put electric cables from the battery, you know, to your genitals. Confess. Which? Oh, I'm confusing things there. I wasn't talking about witches and witch trials. I was talking about Americans in a recent past that actually thought, oh, it's okay, I can do that. But you can't, because it's wrong. It's illegal. The Constitution says, no, you can't do that. But they're doing it, and then the Supreme Court came along and said, you can't do that anymore. That's unconstitutional. You're like depriving people of their rights, and you're like being a fucking maniac. Stop doing that to people. You're not allowed to entrap people and torture them. Shit. Because it's wrong in so many ways. So, Supreme Court. Now, I wish I could cite the case and, give you something to reference so you could look at it up yourself and prove it that I'm telling the truth. But I don't remember at the moment. It's been a long time ago since they said, the court said, entrapment is not allowed in America. It's certainly not allowed in a free country, and this is a free society, supposedly. So, no, you can't entrap people anymore. And now they do it all the time. And nobody seems to be aware of the fact that the courts ruled it's not allowed. So, that's another lunacy going on in America. And it boggles the mind. No, you can't entrap people. It's a crime. It's illegal. The courts have said, you can't do that. And the courts are right, because you can't. And the Constitution says, you can't do that. Sort of like cruel and unusual punishment and unreasonable bails. He's out on bail. How much is his bail? Well, he's not going to get out on bail because his bail is $2 million. What did he do? He talked to a 15-year-old. Ta-da! Wow. And then there's other kinds of entrapment that are totally and equally disgusting, bizarre, and insane. And of course, they changed the name of it. They don't call it entrapment anymore. They call it, guess what? A sting operation. Oh, that makes it okay. And how come the Supreme Court hasn't ruled that is unconstitutional as well? Because it is. A sting operation. That's just another word for entrapment. And you're not allowed to do it. So they changed the name, thinking, no one's going to notice that we called entrapment something else that sounds a little better. It's still illegal in a free country to entrap people. You can call it a sting operation if you want, but you're entrapping people. Not doing any legitimate legal processing to come to the facts and get the evidence against the person that is reasonable suspicion, or is it probable cause? Another one of those little mind games people play, like the government, we have reasonable suspicion that you committed a crime. Yeah, well, prove it. And don't entrap me in the process, because that's against the law. Yes, it is. So the part my mother didn't quite grasp, because she's an emotional person, she's allowing her emotions to play in, like most people in America, at least. See, I'm more familiar with what Americans, do and think and stuff than I am people that live in, Bolivia or, Nicaragua or freaking Russia or somewhere. I have very little knowledge of what goes on in China, by the way. I don't know what's going on over there. I suppose there's evidence on the internet that I could look up and find out, but not that important to me right now. You know what I'm saying? Not that important. So, it's important, but not right now, because I'm not talking about that. So talking to a teenager is a crime. It's actually a felony according to Title 18 of the U.S. Code, which is in itself a crime and certainly unconstitutional. And just downright stupid. All right, so sum up. I said something, my mother said, yes it is, and she was wrong, because no it's not. But that's because my mother has been tainted by garbage, bullshit, nonsense, and lies, and the mind benders have gotten to her from a long time ago, because my mother's a country girl kind of person. I like to say that. I think that's cool and cute, and nothing wrong with being a country girl, but the insinuation is that she's not, as smart and as educated as us city folk. It's a metaphor don't take it seriously. I mean, don't be offended by the fact that I called someone a country girl. I don't think my mother would object to being called a country girl. She probably believes she is, too. So, I'm not making any accusations. I'm not calling anybody name. I'm not slurring anybody. Just an accurate description. I mean, she used to live on a farm. She was raised on a farm. Her parents were farmers kind of people. And then my grandfather was also a coal miner, but still. My grandmother was a country girl. She looked like a country girl. And talked like a country girl and believed like a country girl, which is, Christian shit, mostly. But anyway, the fact of the matter is, if you say, oh, the sky is up, and my mother says, let's say, hypothetically, no, it's not, then who would be the person that has credibility here? Me, that can say, look up and see what's up there. Oh, it's the sky. Huh, imagine that. So I guess I'm right, because there it is, up there, not down there. So let's not be ridiculous here, people. Come on. Show some brains. All right. Gonna pause for a second, get my breath, and think of something else to talk about. I'll be back in a minute. So, moving on. What should we talk about now? Well, not we, me. Because this is radio and it's monologues, and that doesn't include you. I am the monologue guy. You're the audience. Okay. And how come there's not a bunch more of you? Like millions? Oh, but you're missing out. So, what's the next topic? All right, let me add this to the previous subject. The problem here is this. I express a thought, an idea, a concept. Oh, crap. What are those pests on my telephone? Why did they call me? Well, why not, I guess. Annoying. Not a crime, I suppose. Just annoying. Alright, I wanted to mention one other thing about this. Yes, it is. Thing. It was my mother. The problem here is, when I was talking and I said what I was saying about things that are true, and my mother said, yes, it is. She's talking from an emotional standpoint, from a objective standpoint. No, subjective standpoint. Get this backwards sometimes, because my brain's like walking on itself. The problem here is that my mother she's a good person, a wonderful person, a good mother. And I think she's done a very good job of living her life and being a person, a human being, a woman, a mother, a wife, and a friend. The problem with my mother, and she sort of exemplifies a lot of people in America. Not that my mother is not unique, because she is, but she has a unique personality, and she is distinctly who she is. And I love her to pieces. Bless her heart. Bless her heart. But she gets things wrong. And she's always gotten things wrong. This is not like just a new development. This is not something that just came about recently. Just, like since she's been 90 years of age. She's always had some characteristics of a person who has been manipulated indoctrinated, conditioned by, shall we say, the mind benders of the Matrix. But on a more practical level, she was subjected to indoctrination by the culture and society she lives in. Christianity, for example. She was raised in that environment where Christianity was the prevailing mindset. And with all the defects in Christianity and that kind of thinking, the fact is, a lot of people are raised up in a society or in a culture or in a subset of culture, like the family unit or a community, where certain ideas are prevalent and they prevail and they are overwhelmingly influential to young people, children, for example, and adolescents and adults and so forth. But they have always been subjected to this ideology of Christianity and other things, aspects like, for example, nationalism, tainted patriotism, and things of that sort. I can understand my mother's thinking because she's been subjected to that mindset her whole life, and in spite of the fact that there had been plenty of opportunities for her to learn, say, another way of thinking, or learn about things that would change her mindset if she allowed it to happen. I have been speaking my whole life. I've said things, I've written things that would serve my mother well to pay attention to and give some credible thought time to. For example, she's upset about certain things she hears on the news, like Fox News, and even though I've told her 50 times, don't watch that stuff, it'll rot your brain. Apparently her brain's pretty good, considering she's 90 years old. However, she's been subjected to a certain mindset, and that mindset has become ingrained in her thinking, and that's not going to change. At this point in time, at 90, she's not going to, be awakened. She's not going to be enlightened. She's not going to have some sort of epiphany of knowledge and suddenly decide, oh, I'm not going to think like that anymore. I'm going to think, logically from now on. It's not going to happen. It would be foolish of me and cruel of me to attempt to enlighten her about certain truths that are self-evident, at least if you're paying attention. But in regards to her comment, in regards to my statement, which had to do with talking to people, and in this case, I was referring to basically the Mr. Wiener. I think if I had a name like Wiener, I'd at least mispronounce it, like Weiner, or Reiner, as it might be in German. I don't think I'd walk around like, hey, Wiener, come over here, I want to talk to you. No, I can't imagine anybody living a lifetime with that name. What a curse that must be. Anyway, and as we've seen in the news where people have made fun of, and social media, like, hey, he's a wiener, as in he's a dick. And he may be a dick, for all I know. But to my knowledge, he's never committed a crime. And when I say crime, I mean crime, like in real crime. There are a lot of laws that are like invalid and have no basis in fact, have no reason to exist except for people being bullies and wanting to have control over other people. Bullies, tyrants, and idiots. But the fact is, she's been exposed to the various mindsets, the various concepts that are abstract, that are fabricated and arbitrary and pretty much nonsense. But she's been exposed to that, and even we all are, which is why there are a large number of people who think like my mother, who basically just do not use the concept and process of logical thinking and coming to a conclusion, and therefore having a thought. This is sad, because it doesn't have to be that way. We can actually learn to be curious, inquisitive, logical, and sane if society would simply focus on creating that kind of agenda for, and in this case agenda is a good thing, this kind of paradigm for growing up, maturing, and being intelligent adult human beings who believe in freedom, who are not hypocrites or liars or delusional, hysterical. Hysteria runs big in America. A lot of people are hysterical, which is a form of mental illness or insanity. Not that there's not a reason to be hysterical from time to time, or at the very least, panic could set in at some point when you realize that the world has gone to hell and the country's gone to frickin' hell because of this insanity that's going on. And we get swept up in that insanity. And, what can we do? It's sort of the mob mentality on steroids. But she has been subjected to these false notions throughout her life, and therefore they are part of her thinking process, and they're just ingrained into her being. And this is sad, and I would like to prevent this from happening to young people, if at all possible. I would like to contact people and be, shout out like a preacher from the pulpit of the earth. It'll say, listen up, young folks. You're being used, duped, manipulated, indoctrinated. You've been conditioned by the Matrix, by the mind benders that work in the Matrix, the Nazis, the fascists, the tyrants, the bullies, the socialists, the fucking stupid people that are running the country and running society and have a great influence over it. Public schools, for example, indoctrination centers for idiots. I went to public schools. I graduated from high school. I went to college, and by the way, we called Fairmont State College, at the time it was a college, now it's a university. At the time we called it the high school on the hill because it was pretty much just like high school. The students were not respected as human beings, and certainly not respected as individual freedom, individual people with human rights, because a lot of the students were not 18. Some were 17, barely 18, some were 20, 21, 22, and they still weren't respected as adults and treated with respect and mutual equality by the university and the staff and other students, for that matter. The problem is, if you've been indoctrinated with for your whole life with this nonsense and bullshit and lies and illogical, fabricated, arbitrary laws, for example, you're set in your ways and you're not going to change. And this is one of the problems I have with Americans today. Is I try to speak to them honestly, using English, the correct English, using words properly, to express an idea that is sound, logical, rational, and reasonable, and sane, and yet, they can't break free of that indoctrination. Whereas I've never apparently been indoctrinated. I tried, certainly tried to put that shit in my head, but I refused. I resisted. And I survived high school basically by disregarding most of the bullshit that high school is. I considered high school, all public schools, to be just, places to socialize and get to know what society is all about and how people are as human beings. decided when I was in high school that most people are not very bright, and that they're weak-willed, if not weak-minded, because they allow themselves to be indoctrinated and conditioned by the Matrix and the mind benders and the fools that are influencing them. So my mother was exposed to all of this negative, nonsensical, farcical stuff, and has accepted that as valid. But my mother is delusional. Not to say that she's insane, but she suffers a symptom of insanity, which is delusion. And being a Christian, there's a delusion. Believing in America, right or wrong, love it or leave it kind of thing. I've never heard my mother say that, but she kind of adheres to these kinds of principles that are totally wrong, unfounded, illogical, irrational, insane, crazy, stupid, and ridiculous. But I've learned some time ago in my life, particularly after I got onto the internet and got involved with being a presence on the internet, and I used to argue with people, incessantly. It was like, dawned on me, like, this is pointless. They're not going to change their mind. In fact, I've asked myself the question a couple of times, who have I ever changed the mind of? Let me rephrase that. Has anybody ever changed their mind about anything as a result of listening to me talk or hearing me say things or engaging me in a conversation or discussion or debate or whatever? Has anybody ever changed their mindset because of me? Have I done any good at all in the world over the years? I could go down the list of people I've known and talked to and engaged in conversation and so forth, been associated with, married to, whatever, or been a parent of. Ever changed anybody's mind? For the better, of course, towards logic and intelligence and reasonableness. Can't say that I have. And that's sad, because I'm thinking about, I've been on this planet almost 70 years. And I haven't changed anybody's mind after all my talk, after all my writings, and all of my presence. Like on Facebook, for example. I don't have a whole lot of friends on my friends list on Facebook, but everything I publish post on Facebook is public. Anybody that can read it, I don't have any restrictions on that. I want everybody to hear what I have to say, because I have a message and a vision, and I think it's important that they at least get the opportunity to hear about it. The fact that I'm an artist who seeks public recognition as an artist is a part of that, a big part of that. But as an intellectual, I want people to hear what I have to say because it's good for them. Now, you can call me a narcissist or whatever, any of those big words you want to call me, narcissist, egotist. Nothing wrong with those words. Nothing wrong with being a narcissist. Now, if you're a narcissist that hurts people, kills people, or robs people, or steals people, or commits fraud with people, that's a bad narcissist. But you can be a good narcissist. Believe it or not. I mean, Salvador Dali, as an example. I don't believe Salvador Dali ever hurt anybody in his life. I don't think he violated any real crime, committed any real crimes against humanity or any individual. Maybe. Don't know every detail of his life, but I have no reason to think that the man never raped anybody or murdered anybody or defrauded anybody. So in that case, I think Salvador Dali was a good narcissist. And it was necessary for his career to be one, and he recognized this early on when he was like about 20 years old or so, when he spent his $20 tuition to college to buy a tuxedo. And as we've seen him wear that tuxedo, throughout his lifetime, his career. Showman, egotist, narcissist. He even spoke about himself in the third person. I'm running out of time again. Doggone it. Time sure goes fast. Coming up on my 45-minute mark in about 10 seconds, so I'm going to sign off now, and I'll get back to you next time.